everybody, this is Gio, and today we're going to talk about the first part of the Dark Tower series, the Gunslinger. Now for those of you who are new to the series, maybe you haven't started it yet, or maybe you've just started it, I'm going to do my best to make sure I stay away from any major spoilers. I'm sure I'll cover some smaller spoilers, but it's nothing really integral to the main plot points, at least I hope not, so we'll see how it goes. Now, The Gunslinger is a book that's been around for quite a while. It's gone through some changes over the years, and it's still a bit of a contention between fans, whether they like it or not, or prefer it over other books. It's still up for quite a lot of debate, especially in fan circles. But he started it when he was 19 years old, written way back in the 70s, wasn't published till the early 80s. And wasn't published in a complete volume like it is today. It was first published in the Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction in 1978, and that lasted through 5 chapters all the way to, I believe, 1982. So you can see that not many King fans would really know about it at first, and wouldn't come to know it until the mid-80s. And it had people asking, well, most people asking, what is this book about? I've never heard of this book. And that led to it being released again. And the reason he didn't release it originally, like all the other books he's done in hardback and all that, is because the book itself, the story, it's such a strange departure from everything else he's ever done that even he didn't believe his own fans would like it to such a degree. And he was partly correct, as in, today we still have people who haven't read the Dark Tower books and still haven't partaken that direction because it's such a departure from, like I said, everything that's come before. Whereas in Carrie you had this shy, unattractive high school teenage girl who nobody seemed to like and was picked on relentlessly. People can relate to a character like that because that's happened to a lot of people. In The Shining, you had an alcoholic father, or a recovering alcoholic anyway, who seemed to not be able to get over his demons quite as much as he wanted to, and of course being isolated, and the ghosts in that book didn't help matters much, and we've all been tempted by our own demons, so we can also relate to that. But in this book, it's really hard, and purposefully hard, to relate to the Gunslinger. When we first meet the Gunslinger, he's walking through the desert, slowly running out of water, and chasing what is described as a man in black. Now, we're not told why he's chasing this man, or who this man is, or who the Gunslinger even is. We just know that he's chasing him through the desert, and he's been chasing him for quite a long time. Now here's where it gets a little bit confusing for some people. The story immediately flashes back to where the Gunslinger was a few days ago, before we see him in the desert, before the first lines of the book. The man in black fled across the desert and the Gunslinger followed. Before that, we're then taken to the last person the Gunslinger sees or meets. And it's a man who happens to live on the border of the desert, between desert and the last town Roland was just in. And it's a very awkward meaning because from the point of view of the Gunslinger, he's viewing it as the man in black has set a trap for him, and he's just waiting for the trap to be sprung and for this border dweller to kill him or attack him in some way. When the man known as Brown does not spring that trap and does not intend to attack him, he starts to let up, and eventually he starts to tell his story of the last town he was in, so we go even further back in time. So we're in a flashback of a flashback, and you can see how people can get a little bit confused. Now, as we listen to the Gunslinger tell his story, and actually throughout the entirety of the book, you come to realize that the Gunslinger is not a person you can honestly trust. He's not a good man. This is a man who has sacrificed a lot to attain a certain goal. That goal being to reach the Dark Tower, of course. Well, in this book, or at least in this book, to get to the man in black. How he obtains that goal is very villainous in many ways. He's a very ruthless character. He's very unsympathetic. And as he meets other characters who are more relatable to us, namely the boy named Jake, who I won't spoil anything there, but the way he treats the boy and continues on his adventures, you'll find yourself really not liking the central character of the story you're reading. And you can see that as another stumbling block of trying to get into the story. Of course, besides the current version of the Gunslinger and what he's doing at that present time, we also get a bit of a backstory and how he used to be before he went on his journey to find the Man in Black. And you come to realize why he's so ruthless and doing what he has to do to get to his goal. It's almost really a tale of two protagonists, almost. You have the child gunslinger, and then you have the man gunslinger. And the two are so diametrically opposed, almost entirely two different people. I mean, you're really left wanting to know how he got this way. And as the series plays out, you come to find more and more of what happened to him, and you start to understand his reasonings. But also at the same time, he learns to become human again. Once you dissect all the little intricacies of the character of the Gunslinger, the more intriguing he becomes. The psychology behind the character, the fictional man, his motivations, and ultimately what happens at the end of the series. You'll come to understand him more and even sympathize. I know I certainly did when reading through the entire arc, and I've been reading this story for almost 20 years now, and that's a pretty long time, and some people have been reading it a lot longer than I have. Now with this new book, I get to continue reading that, his adventures, and more insight into his character and the other characters we've come to love, which will be introduced in my next part, which will deal with the second book, The Drawing of the Three. And I hope you enjoyed what I had to say here today. I hope you do take a chance on reading this book, and I do hope you enjoy it. And for those of you who are in the middle of it, I hope you're enjoying the ride. I know I certainly did, and I'll see you all later. Take care.